2023 Town Council meeting. If you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands nation under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you. We're going to move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment remotely should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting, at which time a link will be provided to attend the meeting, as well as instructions on how to participate. And seeing none, we will move on to appointments and resignations. We did have an appointment for Mr. Desai, so we will just table that next time. I even forget which committee that he is on, but it's an unusual one. Chris, do you remember which one that was?
We have the email, but I don't remember.
Yeah, we have the email. So it's one of those that is just the term has expired, and they asked that he come back, and we can take care of that next time.
Does Chris have any appointments and resignations?
We have the opening still on the
Sustainability.
on the Sustainable Committee.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for, I guess, clarity on the regulations before we can move forward with filling that seat.
Yeah, we're waiting for the bylaws. Okay. Then let's move on to the approval of the minutes from the meeting on September 18th.
I'll make a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes from September 18, 2023 meeting.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay. Subcommittee reports, beginning with finance.
Finance Committee has not met since our last council meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 12th at 6 p.m.
Okay, government operations.
Government operations moved their meeting scheduled for tonight to 2 weeks from tonight, since we just met a couple weeks ago. We've kind of gotten onto the third Monday of the month instead of the first Monday of the month, so we're sticking on that at least for one more month. So we'll have that meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay. Public safety. Will you be doing that?
No, we didn't have a public safety meeting since the last council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Senior liaison.
We meet quarterly, and our next meeting is October 23rd at 6 p.m.
Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
I think all the committee members are out, but I think they meet in 2 weeks, right? They haven't had a meeting. I think they meet on the 16th.
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting since the last
Chris is on? Okay, sorry.
the last meeting.
Okay.
It's coming up
2 weeks from tonight?
shortly. Yeah, I believe so.
Stay tuned.
Very specific.
Okay. Where are we? Liaison to the state rep and the state senator. We don't have a person to report.
It's not here, so.
No, Ed's not here. We have a school liaison. Do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Just to change it up a little bit and change the
PowerPoint.
monotony. Since I got Chris here, from Orlando, I had to do a good report because otherwise his time wouldn't be useful. So I decided to do a report, and which is a kind of a continuation of what I talked about last time. As I mentioned in my report last time I did this school liaison report in our last town council meeting, I mentioned that under your leadership, Mayor Marotta here, and Board of Education under the leadership of Brian Dillon, and now under the leadership of Mr. Steve Slattery, they have consistently made decisions that best address the needs of our students above everything else. And as I said in my last report, none of those decisions were more important than giving our students and parents the choice to attend school remotely or in person safely during the pandemic. And as a result, the students in Rocky Hill are continuing to perform exceptionally well on the state's standardized assessments. And this evening, I have some fantastic news to report via Dr. Zito, the superintendent of schools. He was very gracious to share some details with me, and I want to share that with the council with regards to student achievement for our schools here in Rocky Hill. So I have a little PowerPoint presentation. It's just 6 slides just to set the expectations.
The screen down.
I have it online, but do we need the screen down here if you can? Please. Thank you.
And now people can see that home.
Yeah, I think people can see that at home. If Chris can see it, I think it should be good. Chris, you are able to see it, right?
I'm good.
So before I do that, though, I would want to congratulate the superintendent, Mr. Zito, Dr. Zito, and his terrific leadership team there at under the Board of Ed leadership, and they have been awesome stewards of our school system for several years now, and I've been here 4 years, and every year I've been here, I've been amazed how much they do with the money they get, and every year those results go up. And I have something on that as well later in the presentation, but where I want to start is pandemic recovery metric, which the state has been measuring since the pandemic, and especially during the pandemic, this was put together by the state of Connecticut to measure specifically learning loss by district. So the report, which the highlights of which was shared with me by Dr. Zito, reported that that Rocky Hill students outperformed all other school systems assigned to our peer group. And what that means is the peer group is called District Reference Group, DRGD. It's a mouthful, so henceforth I will just say DRGD, which basically comprises of communities like Cromwell, Berlin, Newington, Wethersfield, Southington, all comparable towns in terms of like socioeconomic status. And within that group, we outperformed everyone in that category of pandemic recovery metric, right? Which is awesome. There are very few schools who can say that. And to that point, we actually outperformed all but 2 DRG-B districts, which comprise of much more wealthier towns than we are, like Avon, Simsbury, Farmington, Glastonbury, West Hartford, Cheshire. You get the idea. So we have been doing not just really, really well in our own district, in our own peer group. We are really punching above our weight, if you will, when it comes to pandemic recovery for learning for our students. So this really, in retrospect, these results underscore the wisdom of providing safe in-person learning as an option during the pandemic. And I think all of us here and the good folks at the Board of Ed need to be congratulated, including the leadership, Dr. Zito's leadership there at the Board of Ed as well. So I just wanted to highlight that because this is something I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of what we have achieved together here in town as the representatives of the residents here in town. So just moving on to the next slide. These are some good news stories. 2022 student achievement overall results. Once again, these are accomplishments we can all be proud of. The highlight here is that we are 18th in spending in our peer group, which comprises of 24 towns. Again, towns which are around us, like Cromwell and Berlin, which are pretty much in the middle or bottom of the pack in terms of results. But we are ranked second in both mathematics and literacy, as measured by SBAC. That's grades between 3rd and 8th grade, and second in both mathematics and literacy on the SAT. So last year, we were second in that group. Pretty noteworthy when we think about how much we spend, which is pretty much at the bottom of that peer group. Actually, there is more good news on that slide. Yeah, even better, I would say. I've always challenged Dr. Zito, and he has been very welcoming of this challenge of asking him to compare ourselves to the DRG-B, which is comprising of much wealthier towns, and he has always obliged, and he gives that comparison to us every year during the budget sessions. But here, it's really noteworthy that we are very competitive overall, but even outranking communities such as Avon and Granby on SBAC mathematics, and Cheshire and Granby with respect to SAT mathematics. And you can read, that's why I put it on a slide, because I don't want to read the slide here, but for people who are online or watching on TV, this is something you can go back and look at. I mean, this makes me really proud of what we are doing here in our school system. And we are really, really, stretching at this point, from in terms of what we are trying to achieve, right? We are hitting way above our weight, like I said before. So these scores demonstrate that we are getting a good value for what we are spending per pupil in this town, and the taxpayers in town are getting excellent returns for what they are paying in terms of the dollars that go to the school system in our budget. So moving on to the next slide, if you can, please. Thank you. These are the preliminary results for the spring 2023. These are, again, to underscore, they're preliminary. This is a preliminary review of the spring 2023 results. So overall, the final results are not out yet, or at least they haven't been shared publicly. I know Dr. Zito and his team has been working on them, and I think there will be a presentation in the next Board of Ed, I'm told, most probably. So, stay tuned for that. But these are preliminary ones, and if you look at the standardized assessments, here we are second in our peer group on the SBACs, and in both English and arts and mathematics. And on the SAT side, we are second in our peer group, again, for both evidence-based reading and writing, and first in mathematics. So I think there is a lot of good news to come. I think these are just previews, like I said, of what we can expect for the 2023, which is this year. But there is every reason for us to be proud of what we are seeing here in our results, from pandemic recovery to 2022, where we are now. I think these are excellent results. And what I want to also say again is, these achievements really demonstrate the ROI, if you will, the return on investment on what we are doing. We are at the bottom of the spendings per pupil, 18th for 24 schools we are compared against. And we are on the top of the achievement list. That's something to be really proud of. So that made me, when I was putting this together, I was really excited about this. And then recently, last week, actually towards the end of the week, I looked at some newspapers, and is the season is what the season is, and I was a little taken aback by a few things I looked at the Rare Reminder and the Rocky Life, and it mentioned that people were talking about spending for our schools, and that made me think, juxtaposed with this. believe it or not, I spent my weekend thinking about this, and I actually called Mona here, Mona McKim, who is our fabulous finance director, and I asked her for some numbers, and she obliged over the weekend, actually. She worked and got me these numbers actually today. So thank you for that, Mona. I really appreciate it. So if we can move on to the next slide, I just want to make sure that people who are watching from home understand that these results I just shared, they happen because we are investing in our schools, and we have been investing in our schools on a very, very high level. Okay, and here are some numbers that I wanted to share with you. Over the last 4 years, the rate of increase for our BOE budget has been pretty much around 3.8, 3.7, 3.5%, let's just say the average, right? And we have been very consistent in investing in our children. And these are numbers. Numbers don't lie. The numbers are what the numbers are. And I just want to make sure that people at home realize that that's what we do here. We prioritize the needs of our children, whether it's the Board of Ed, whether it's the Town Council. Personally speaking, I prioritize education more than anything ever. So when I read this in the newspaper, I was a little disappointed because I think we are doing everything here as a council, and Board of Ed is doing everything in their power to do the best for the kids, spending money. And I think this, as I said, I wanted to set it up with standardized test results, because those are important. This conversation has to happen in the context of those results. Our children are actually doing very well, and they're doing very well because we are providing them every possible resource to do well. And we should be all proud of that. And these numbers are a testament to that. They are evidence to what we are doing. Hard and simple. Hard evidence for the simple truth of what we are doing here in the Town Council. Do not believe a word you hear in newspapers without facts to back them up. These are the facts, and that's why I'm putting them up there for a while, so that everybody can see them. So if everybody has seen them now and does understand what that increase looks like year over year for the last 4 years for the BOE budget, then we can move on to the next slide, where I want to show this data from another point of view. Because I know there are a lot of intelligent people in our town who watch this council meeting, and they have questions, probably for me, about different ways in which we can slice this data. And I wanted to do that because I want to make sure that people, when they look at this, they get the holistic view. And I wanted to make sure that I'm not cherry-picking numbers, or somebody cannot accuse me of cherry-picking numbers here. So here are the numbers, sliced another way, the same numbers for the last 4 years. Board of Education budget as a percentage of town budget. And as you can see, it has never been below 54%, rounded down to 1 decimal point, okay? I have rounded down to 1 decimal, okay? But it has never been below 54%, okay? And it has been pretty consistent, okay, over the last 4 years. 54.2, 54.4, 54, and 54.2. As you saw in the numbers in the previous slide, there has been no dip in funding our Board of Education budget. And I think most people realize that who are pretty tuned in, but I just want to make sure that people who have busy lives and don't have the time to watch this meeting every month are able to look at this and make their own mind when they read things in the newspaper which are just not true. So last slide I got here, Madam Mayor, is, if you can move on to the last one, since I had all the vertical bar charts, I decided to do a horizontal one because I'm like, I need to change some things up.
It's because you're a data scientist. Let's just call it what it is.
So this is a very simple bar chart, horizontal bar chart of our general fund CIP as it relates to the Board of Education. And again, we have been never below 200,000. It's pretty consistent. Since I have been here for the last 4 years, this is what the CIP has been. And I did talk about our investment in the CIP as it pertains to like HVACs and roofs and big ticket items. I did talk about it last week, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But this is evidence to the effect of what I talked to you about last time, which is we have been very, very high. We place a very high priority on spending on education when it comes to per pupil spending on academics as well as the CIP, which is used to maintain our schools, school buildings and infrastructure. And this is what it tells you. So those three charts, and that's why I'm putting it up for a while, because I want people at home who are watching to actually see these. You can go back and forth, if you're watching this as a recorded session, and see for yourself what we are doing with the Board of Ed budget. So, in summary, I really feel proud of what we are doing. Like I said, I cannot be prouder of Dr. Zito and his team, leadership team, what they have been doing there on the ground. And I cannot be any prouder of the elected representatives of the people here on this council and on the Board of Ed who have been doing what they're supposed to do for our students in our school system. So again, this is something I don't do normally, but I think these presentations hopefully are informative, and maybe there are takeaways which can help you synthesize some of the information you see out there and make your own mind about what to believe and what not to believe. But thank you, Madam Mayor. That was the report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Capital Improvements Committee.
So I have to follow that with, we have not met, and we meet November 29th at 5 p.m.
Okay. And Economic Development Subcommittee.
Economic Development Subcommittee does not have a meeting scheduled.
Okay. Going to Old Business A, update on the Connecticut Deep SMM grant. Chris, did you want to say something?
I do have the date for, I was able to look up the date for farmland. And the meeting on September 26th was canceled. The next one is October 24th at 6 p.m. for farmland.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a quick update on the DEP grant. The last meeting, we we're talking about the unit-based pricing and how that was going to affect our application. And the message was to bring back to the state DEP to get their input on what would be the next step. So we did email to the DEP group and ask them, and I should say more so, presented that we were not prepared to commit to unit-based pricing or co-collection with our application. Should we keep the existing application as submitted, or would they recommend that we revise the application to include just our transfer station component, which they were seeing positively? And unfortunately, that went out on the 19th, the day after our meeting. We've had no response. I have followed that up with telephone call, voicemail, and they are not responding. So with staff, Director of Public Works, Town Manager, and I, that we believe within our existing budget, we would like to at least go forward with the transfer station portion of it. We have the barrels in place. We have staffing that could, because such a small delivery, we could drive that out to the location. Any additional expenses would be mostly just outreach, maybe some flyers, something to get out to the public, as well as perhaps a small amount of tipping fees. Again, we're probably looking at, we're only estimating a few tons, so it should not be anything substantial to the budget.
And when would you anticipate rolling that out?
As soon as we get the nod to go forward, we'd love to get going with it now. Joe Lentini's been, waiting in the wings for months for us to go ahead, so he's prepared.
So when you say the nod to go forward, do you need us to do something? Or are you waiting to see if the
No,
grant
I
money?
think we're going to go forward with that.
Yeah.
It's in place. So we
Okay,
really just
good,
need
good.
to start getting our communication out
Yeah.
to the public. So hopefully we'll do that in the next few weeks and let you see what we're going to send out. We're picturing something more on the town website, putting them out on the electronic signs outside
Mm-hmm.
the various corners.
I think that's super exciting.
We're excited about it.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Baby steps, we'll get there. Any questions of Mona?
Where does that, I guess it's not the worst thing that we haven't, at least Deep hasn't told us no. So there's that. But where does that stand in terms of the other pilot we talked about with the reduced scope? It sounds like we're moving forward with the transfer station. That was something we'd spoken about last meeting. There's also the pilot piece. Is that something where we need funding from Deep, or we think we could fund it depending on how the year goes? What's the thoughts on next step with that if we don't get a grant money from Deep?
Yeah, I think if we don't get the grant money, it would require additional funds that aren't budgeted for. If we did something, maybe after the first of the year, we get past the winter break, if we want to start something toward the end of the fiscal year, we could begin a pilot without any serious implications on the existing budget. But I think a small pilot would be good after the winter season.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. We're going to go to the mayor's report. So let's see where I started. So last night, I had the pleasure of attending the Muslim Coalition of Connecticut's annual leadership banquet. And the topic was about ways to embrace disability diversity and expand accessibility. And because it was a leadership program, I had invited a couple of Rocky Hill students, a couple of women in leadership students who attended with me, and I was so excited and very proud that they had that opportunity to see some amazing speakers and learn about the needs of people in the disability community, because it's something that disability as a diversity group is the biggest group that exists out there. So it's something that needs a lot of attention, and sometimes you just have to hear the message and see different ways that local leaders can respond to issues, and a lot of that impacts children and the schools and what they're doing. So it was great to have the high school students be able to listen to that message. And also I brought some of our Southern students who are in my Women in Leadership Initiative program. So it was a great night for leadership. Yesterday, we also had the first annual La Festa Italia America, which was a huge success. And I just want to give a big shout out to the Wethersfield chapter of Unico and all of the Connecticut chapters who participated in La Festa, and also the Connecticut, there is another group, and I always get the name wrong, but Mr. Paul Parada runs an association of Italian American societies here in Connecticut, and he was one of the co-chairs, along with Mr. Boria, who doesn't work, but is a big volunteer for Unico. And under their leadership, they put together this incredible committee from folks from all over, many of whom had experience in the Franklin Avenue Italian Festival. So it really went off without a hitch. We had people here from New Jersey, incredible performers and singers, folks from New York. I'm going to put a story up if you're not familiar with it, but there is a woman by the name of Mrs. Reale who was on the Andrea Doria ocean liner when it collided back in 1956, I believe it was. And she is one of the survivors, and she found out about the festival, and her daughter contacted me and said, my mom has not left the house in quite a while, a few years, but she heard that you were having the lifeboat, one of the lifeboats from the Andrea Doria, and she wanted to be present. And we also had the bell there that the captain rang when the ship was sinking. And when it collided with another liner on that awful day, it took on water so quickly that half of the lifeboats were lost. And Mrs. Reale just happened to be sick on that day, and she was a child. She was 17 years old. Her parents put her on that boat for a better life, all by herself, to come to America. And because she was so sick, they actually moved her to another floor. And it was because she was on that floor that she survived the crash. And then when they were herded to the side of the ship, and the children were told, grab the rope and slide down the rope and jump into one of the lifeboats, the girl in front of her was too scared to do it. And Mrs. Reale waited, and then she said to the girl, if you're not going to jump, I will. And she grabbed the rope and she jumped. And as it turned out, yesterday was her 85th birthday. So, it was incredible. It was incredibly emotional and happy and very exciting time. And that was really part of the reason that the festival went forward, is because the folks were very committed to the Italian heritage and the history and sharing all of that. So thank you for bringing that to our community, and we look forward to many more years of that. On Saturday was the Rocky Hill Royal Blues Marching Band Invitational, which was incredible. It was our 25th anniversary. It was a great show. And so if you don't know, when Rocky Hill hosts these, they don't actually compete. They perform, but they don't compete. And I want to say congratulations to Wethersfield, who won the competition. Winter weather is on its way. I know we don't want to think about it. But if you go onto my Facebook page, there is a link there that talks about getting your emergency kit ready for your vehicles. And really now is the time to start thinking about that, because before you know it, it'll get super cold and slippery, and you don't want to be caught on the road without an emergency kit. We had another new business open up last week, this time on Cromwell Avenue. So we had like 8 announced on the Silas Deane Highway, but this is Do Nails on Cromwell Avenue. So thank you for doing business here. And I came across, so you were reading, you came across stuff I was reading, and I came across some awards, some top restaurant awards that went out through Connecticut Magazine and through the Connecticut Mirror. So I just want to say congratulations to Salute, Kobe J, Wooden Tap, Saybrook Fish House, and Mazzucato's, because they were awarded top restaurants in all of Connecticut, and they're all right here. So congratulations. Coffee with a Cop is coming up in 2 days on October 4th. That'll be at the Rocky Hill Senior Center. I want to give a shout out to our new chief for really his community policing efforts and the way he set up this particular Coffee with a Cop. I know we do usually see these happen on a yearly basis, but I was really so impressed when I read that it was about breaking down barriers and building bridges, and really getting to know your police department and coming out and asking them questions. And that really is the key to excellent community policing. So big shout out to Chief Klett, and please, everyone, come out and meet your police officers, because they really are the heart and soul of our community, and they want to get to know you.
What time is that, Madam Mayor?
Oh, you had to ask me what time it is. I want to say it's early. I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Details.
It's probably at, like, I would think around 9, but let me just look it up. 1, 2, 3. What else can we say while I'm looking? A big thank you to the Elks and Rocky Hill Youth and Human Services for an informative suicide prevention panel and discussion. The annual Stand Down 2023 was another great event that recently happened, and I'm always honored to attend that event and speak on behalf of our community, along with our Lieutenant Governor, AG, state lawmakers, and continue our strong partnership with the DVA. So I got it right here, Councilor Thoreau. Wednesday, October 4th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Community Center. Couple more things. Congratulations to Sergeant Jeffrey Foss Rugen, officers Jenny Garcia and Tim Begley, who were honored at the Mothers Against Drunk Driving 37th Annual Law Enforcement ceremony. So all 3 of these folks were selected for the MAD Award for their commitment to removing impaired operators from our roadways in order to keep our community safe. So way to go. Thank you, thank you. I had an opportunity to attend a tour of the Massaro Community Farm. I think that was maybe a couple weeks ago. And they had this really cool program on circular economy. And it was hosted by the Connecticut Sustainable Business Council, which I didn't even know existed, and all of our excitement about sustainable CT. So this is another really cool resource for businesses. There was a conversation there, and Blue Earth participated, and Baronet Coffee participated, and they all talked about, like, in the chain of how trash is, how things are created, and then how they flow through the system and are eventually, disposed of, how everyone has, like, a duty in that circle, from the producers to the growers to, the end users and all of that. So it was great. My favorite takeaway was the mobile solar chicken coop. It was the coolest thing. They literally moved this giant chicken coop, like 100 feet every so many days. And everything on this farm has a very specific and unique purpose. And they have broom corn. So there are really lots of cool things that we can learn from them for our community farm. And I think that's it. Yeah. So we will move on to our town manager's report. I don't know if you wanted to report, Mona?
Well, town manager submitted his written report, so
Okay.
I really didn't have a report to present for him, unless we wanted to go on any specific.
Okay.
Just one thing, Madam Mayor, on the agenda itself, when we talk about upcoming meetings, it says there's one November 6th, which I don't believe is true.
November 6th?
Yeah.
Where does it say that?
At the bottom.
At the bottom of the
At the bottom.
agenda.
I have November 20th.
Hold on.
It should be the 7th, right, to swear, when is election
I don't
day?
have
'Cause
that.
would-
Election's the next day, so usually we don't have one the night before the.
I don't have that on my agenda. I wonder if that was an old agenda. Mine says Monday, November 20th.
Yeah.
When we got, that was the
Okay.
emailed version.
Okay.
So then, the next meetings, the next
20th.
upcoming meetings are October 16th and November 20th.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Duff. Good night, everyone.